Canadians wouldn't accept picking their leaders with a system designed for prehistoric times.
Grump, new leader!
Nor would they accept a system designed for the medieval ages. It's a girl. Wait, I think there's another one coming. It's a boy! We have our new leader. Long live the king! Canadians shouldn't accept picking their leaders with a system designed for 1867. And you know what? More and more of them don't. What do you mean? Between 1945 and 1980, voter turnout in Canadian federal elections was consistently between 74 and 80%. In the 80s, voter turnout started to drop, and this decline has continued to this day. Voter turnout in the 5 federal elections held since 2000 has averaged a dismal 61%. As voting participation continues to decline, voter apathy and disillusionment with government continues to grow. But let's look at the solutions policymakers and the media often offer up to increase voter participation. The solution to low voter turnout, in the opinion of this news broadcaster, internet voting. Or maybe compulsory voting. Or maybe drive-through voting. The problem is, people are offering solutions without actually asking the important question. Why does voter participation continue to decline? And the answer to that question is pretty obvious. Because the current voting system is unfair to all voters, and a lot of Canadians have realized that their votes just don't count. Most Canadians would expect that the amount of influence any particular party has in the governing of the country should be related to the amount of the population that supports that party. But it doesn't work that way. Problem is, Canada uses the very flawed first-past-the-post electoral system. Canada has 308 electoral districts or ridings. The largest of these ridings contain over 170,000 eligible voters. The smallest, less than 30,000. Now in each riding, a first-past-the-post election system is used. Think of it as a race between the candidates. The candidate in each riding who receives the most votes or gets first past the post wins the race, and thus becomes a member of Parliament representing that riding. The political party that wins the most ridings forms the government. Now in a two-party system with ridings of more or less equal size, this first-past-the-post system produces pretty equitable results. The party that wins the most seats and forms government can be expected to have received the majority of votes and therefore have a claim to legitimacy. But thankfully, we don't have a two-party system, and our ridings are not all the same size. Canada is blessed with multiple parties giving Canadians a wide variety of political ideologies of which to support. This is a good thing. I'd never argue that what we need is less choice when it comes to our political system. Problem is, first past the post is a terrible system when you have multiple parties. And because of its flaws, the amount of influences parties have isn't related to their support across the population very well. Here's why. In each of the 308 ridings under a multiple party system, to win, you don't need to get the majority of voters in that riding supporting you or your ideas. You only need to get one more vote than anyone else running. And any party that can win 50.1% of the ridings across the country ends up with a majority of seats in the legislature, which translates into that party having 100% of the political power.
Let's look at a hypothetical first-past-the-post election run between 4 parties. Once the votes are counted across all 308 ridings, imagine the countrywide vote totals each party received were as follows. The Lion Party received 35% of the popular vote. The Giraffe Party are close behind with 34% of the popular vote. The Dog Party received a strong 21% of the popular vote, and the Hippo Party won 10% of all votes cast. It would be fair if our system rewarded the Lions with 35% of the power, but gave strong voices and influence in the governance of the country to the other 3 parties, whose platforms were supported by 65% of the voting population. But our system definitely isn't fair. Since the Lions were particularly strong in smaller ridings with less population, and because of the way each riding race broke down, the support the Lions received from 35% of the population allowed them to win a majority of the riding races and control 51% of the seats in the legislature. Having control of the majority of seats gives them 100% of the government decision-making power. The Giraffe Party, which is supported by only 1% less of the population than the Lion Party, has no power over the governance of the citizens. Neither do the Dogs or the Hippos. The flaws in the first-past-the-post system have meant that the Dog Party, which received 21% of the popular vote, only gets 14 seats, while the Hippo Party, which received 10% of all votes cast across the country, failed to win a single riding. The 65% of voters who supported a party other than the Lions are now effectively locked out of the decision-making process. In the end, their votes just didn't count. And if your votes don't count for anything, why bother voting?
Proportional voting systems are used in over 80 countries worldwide. The vast majority of democracies are far more democratic than ours. Fair-minded Canadians care about democracy and want every vote to count. The time to act is now. Let's make 2015 the last unfair federal election. Here's what you can do.
Number 1, visit the Fair Vote Canada website at www.fairvote.ca. Learn about the positive alternatives to our current system and what you can do to make 2015 the last unfair election. Number 2, forward this video to your friends and family. Send it to your grandma in Gander, your buddy in Bob Cajun, even send it to your grumpy uncle in Happy Valley, BC. Together, we can make 2015 the last unfair federal election.